So fear of intimacy. When I looked that up and started to read on it, the first thing I got was, okay, I'm not talking about, there's actually people that suffer from a disease that is called fear of intimacy. And I'm not talking about that. So if that is something that you suffer from, please understand, that's not where I'm going. Intimacy, I love this. I picked it up from Brene Brown. Into me see. Into me see. Look at me, see me. That's what intimacy is all about. And so what it takes to step away from being fearful, first of all, is great courage. If you're going to be intimate with someone, and I am not talking about in your relationship with your beloved, that is a different kind of intimacy. I am talking about intimacy with your friends, intimacy with your family, intimacy with your coworkers. And some of those are going to have different kinds of boundaries around them. I get that. But it takes great courage to show up and be you. How many of you have in the past or do now show up different ways for different groups of people? Yeah, exactly. What if you didn't? What if you had a party like West and everybody came? You would probably wonder, like, who am I supposed to be? I got my work people, I'm supposed to behave this way, but my friends from the gym are over here, so I'm not supposed to eat cake. And then I've got these spiritual people over here, so I can't swear. And, who are you going to be? And that's what we do to ourselves. We compartmentalize ourselves into different ways to be with people. And the truth is, you're brilliant and beloved exactly as you are. And what if you started to really own that? What if you took down that facade that you put on at work because you think you're supposed to? And you show up as you. Raw talent, beautiful, handsome, speaking your truth, kindly. Because along with courage to be intimate, you have to be compassionate. You have to be compassionate. So in advanced spiritual living, we're talking about the process of, especially, I spent 38 years in corporate America. When I walked into Reverend Susie's church, there was an overlap there of where I was working in corporate America and going to a center like this. And people used to say, longest drive you're ever going to take is from your head to your heart, 18 inches, shortest distance, longest road. You'll make it. And it's like, is there a map? How do I get out of my head where I have been told my brilliance is, where I have been paid to show up? How do I quit thinking from there and I think from my heart? What does that mean? We throw these things out to people and then we don't give them a roadmap. So what I would say to you is, when you're thinking from your head is when you think you know all of the answers. You're not listening to other people. You're very convinced that this is the way it is, this is the way it's going to be, and nothing's ever going to change that. Ever. Ever is a long time. And if we're infinite, that's a really long time. And so what if to me, taking that trip is to soften who I am, to soften my responses with people. That's to me what compassion is. Remember when I talked last week about undefended love, about listening to somebody that may want to say to me, this happened, and you were part of the reason this happened, and instead of coming back with an excuse or an answer or explain to them why they misunderstood what was going on, to just honor the fact that this was how they felt. And I was part of the reason that they felt that way. That to me is that 18 inches. Can you start to undefend yourself or to constantly explain yourself to people and just be you? Sometimes we don't know when we're offending somebody. We really don't. Things pop out of our mouth and we move on, and then somebody comes back and says, really? And we're like, I had no idea. I said today in our prayer circle to somebody, I made a comment, and then I said, sometimes I think I have to say to somebody, I'm kidding, right? Because sometimes people don't. And I have a quirky sense of humor. What I said to the person was, they felt a migraine coming on, and I said, well, if you don't want to do meditation, now I gave it away. I'm so sorry. I was really trying not to do that. I know. You made me do that. Okay, so it was Darnita. And she said she was coming down with a migraine, and like a good friend practitioner does, said, I'll switch with you. And I looked at her and I said, so if she switches, I'd really want you not realizing what I was saying, I want you at the open house, like, go home and take care of yourself. Church is not that important. Just make sure you show up at 4 o'clock. And then when she burst out laughing, I went, yeah, that was funny. And so, sometimes we don't hear ourselves or what we're saying when we're talking. And sometimes we hear ourselves and we don't get the response that we think we should get. Like sometimes somebody might be a little shocked when we say something. It would be good if you're joking to say to them, if they're shocked, that was a joke. I was kidding. Because, yeah, exactly. When they look like that, like, whoa, did she just say that? And I have to understand as a minister, sometimes I say things and people are in shock because they think something shouldn't come out of my mouth. I didn't get that rule book, just so you know. I have a rule at my house, and it is a compassionate rule for myself. I have told people, if you want to watch the Seahawks game with me, you are welcome to come to my house and watch the Seahawks game. Understand a couple ground rules. I yell loudly, and I swear like a truck driver. And if you don't want that from your minister, my suggestion is, don't come to my house and watch football with me. Because that's who I am. Am I going to swear on stage? No, because I'm an adult and I realize that's not really appropriate. But in my house, in front of my TV, yeah, it's okay. I know those words. I grew up in North Bend. So be compassionate. Be compassionate with yourself. Be compassionate with other people. Give people the benefit of the doubt that they really aren't intentionally trying to anger you or intentionally trying to make your life difficult or intentionally trying to hurt your feelings. If we start giving people the benefit of the doubt, especially ourselves, just think how much kinder the world will be. Wouldn't it be wonderful if the world was just kind? Somebody said to me one time, how does your relationship with your husband work? Because, we met and we were glued together almost from from our first date. I actually knew him. He was the sound guy at the center. So we actually had 3 or 4 months where we just kind of looked at each other. But from our first date on, we were glued together. And somebody's like, how did that work? And we had an open, honest conversation with each other. And one of the things was, we will default to kindness. That's your go-to position. You default to kindness. So what does that mean? Because sometimes in a relationship, as you know, somebody is going to freak out about something. And so if I'm freaking out about something and Paul starts to freak out about something, I say to him, oh, no. This is me, my turn. You can tap in later. So you don't want two people in a relationship being crazy. That is crazy making. And it just magnifies itself. And we're all, I don't care how spiritual you get, everybody in this room is going to have a day or a moment where they're going to freak out about something. We're human. That's why we're here. We're learning how to be more spiritual, how to practice being compassionate, how to practice unconditional love, how to really tap into the fact that we're God in form, and so all the intelligence necessary for us to be here, it already lives within us. So that connection that we're looking for, that desire is already within us. And so into me see, the third component of that is connection. How do you connect with people? And I want to tell you, this right here, folks, on Sunday, John will back me up on this, so will Bernie. This is like a petri dish. Your brother's going to show up. It may look like your sister. You know, your mama, your daddy, everybody in your life, if you've got something to heal, trust me, they're sitting somewhere in this room. And you will call them out right into your circle. Now, when you start to realize that, that's when it really becomes delightful, because then you can go, oh, I'm not going to play. That is healed. And I will tell you, I used to get blindsided when I first became a minister. And now I can watch them walk in the door and think, there, I thought that was healed. Not as deeply as I expected. There she is again. So it's an opportunity. Don't ever, please, leave Genesis because somebody hurt your feelings. What I'd like you to really think about is into me see. Why did they hurt your feelings? And what did that feel like? And when you get what that feels like, then go back. When did I first have that feeling? Who was I? How old was I? Who was the first person that hurt me that way? And then you can go, oh, this isn't about them at all. I just want to heal something in me. You know what's fun about that? It makes it a game. You get to take responsibility. Okay, maybe some of you don't think that's a game. For me, it was a delight to finally quit making it all about you. Because when it's all about you, I don't stand a chance. I might as well just turn over the keys to the house and go, wow, okay. Because I lived the first 50 years of my life like that. It was all your fault. Everything in my life was your fault. I didn't even know you guys, and it was your fault. The power of taking responsibility for your life is the power of realizing you don't have to let things affect you. That's where the power lies. It's like, oh, okay. And for me, the way I handle that most of the time is I will look and then I go within and think, okay, what in me at my soul wants to be healed? Because something wants to be healed, or I wouldn't have called this forth into my life. And when I can do that, it gives me the power of how emotionally I am going to react to everything in my life. There's a brilliance in that. And each one of you have that brilliance. So just think about the next time you really get angry. Like, why are you really angry? What is it in you that is just screaming to be healed? Because we want to connect. You know, Brene Brown, if you haven't read her book, Daring Greatly, I highly recommend it. And she is a PhD. And thank you, Carol, for nodding your head. I wanted to make sure I got it right. And she studied all of this. And one of the statements that got me was, we're human. We're here to connect. That's why we're here. And the more we put technology between us or anything else between us and each other, we're not connecting. And if we don't connect, what happens? We start to feel separate. And if we feel separate, what happens? We start to get angry at everybody. It's everybody's fault that I'm not connecting. No, it's not everybody's fault you're not connecting. You haven't left your house in 3 days. If you want to connect, order something from Amazon, make sure you're home when the delivery driver comes. It doesn't work anymore because they knock and run. I've tried that. So connection is really being connected. Heart to heart, soul to soul, into me, see. Look at me, see who I am. Love me with all my warts and my truck driver mouth and my way of being in the world. Because here's the truth. None of us should change for anybody. When you start to change for another person, what's going to happen is eventually you're going to resent it. Because that's your soul calling out and saying, that's not the truth of who you are. Because there's a part of you that's always going to know, oh, she's going to put on that coat. She's going to look that way. And your soul knows. And your soul wants you to be you. Remember, uniquely individualized piece of God right here in form. How could you ever be wrong? So now I'm going to throw out the big V word, because it is where we are when we talk about into me see, and it's vulnerability. I saw you whisper to Bernie. It's vulnerability. How can you be vulnerable with another person? And that comes from walking through that fear of, what if they don't like me? And that's that little 2-year-old that your mom and dad used to correct all the time. Don't be so loud. Don't do this, don't do that. And it's not to blame them. They didn't know any better. If you've read the 4 agreements, it's domestication. It's an agreement we've all made. This is how we're going to be in the world. And what that does, we don't want people going out stealing things and hurting each other. We all get that. Most of us. But what that does when you start to tap down and remember when you were 2 and you weren't supposed to dance madly or scream loudly, what that does is it taps down on your creativity and your spirit. And when that happens, then you quit being you and you become some facade of you, some picture of you. You become the next puppet, depending on who you're around and how they're going to pull your strings. So cut those. Be you. Remind yourself, into me see. I think that's brilliant. Really be with people. And so, in closing, I usually close with a prayer, and I decided to close with a call and response. How many of you know what that is? Oh, not very many. Yay. I was going to do it from memory, but I think that I'll look at it just in case. So you can stand up if you want to. It's not necessary. I'm going to say something. If you choose, you say it back to me. And that's going to be our closing prayer before Darrell and the highly unusual suspects come back. Happiness is a journey. Not a destination. So I work like I'm on vacation. I dance like a child without music. I sing like no one can hear me. I live as though I'm the most abundant person I know. Because I am. God bless you all. Namaste.